we once enjoyed in Alberta. Like we had a really good run here, maybe too good of a run. We always knew that the highs are going to have lows, and that's normal in any industry. But it shouldn't be based on bad government. It shouldn't be our own people trying to drag us down.
Okay, well, I have Michael Manchen on the podcast here on the Carla Rand Show, and I'm going to call you Mike because that's what I talked to you when we were chatting earlier. So yeah. Mike is the People's Party candidate for Yellowhead. So welcome, Mike. Thanks for being here.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so you are doing kind of a big thing right now. Like you're actually representing your party in this federal election, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, well, it's a party I believed in. I've been supporting X since he defected years ago, and I probably donated him money before he was even. I know for sure I couldn't get a tax receipt. I just believe in what he believes in.
Cool. Yeah. So this is the People's Party. So why don't we start with you, Mike? Just tell us about yourself, because a lot of people just kind of want to know who is this candidate and, why is he here kind of thing. So tell us, like where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about your family, that kind of thing.
Sure. Quick bio. Let's say, for example, let's see here. I'm running in the federal election for the People's Party of Canada in the Yellowhead riding. I was born in Barrhead, raised in Innisfail, now reside east of Wabamun in the country. I've been married for 28 years, raised 2 strong, independent sons. We absolutely love this country and this province, and we want it to be the best it can be.
Yeah, I didn't tell you this, but my husband grew up in Innisfail, so it's possible you could know the Rand family. I don't know if you know any Rands, but we can chat about that later. But a lot of people know like Alan Rand, but if you're in the oil patch, he was more of like a farmer. But
yeah, so I left there when I was 18 years old.
Oh, okay.
And then jumped in the oil industry, and I've been doing that for I had a 25-year career in the oil and gas.
Cool. Yeah.
As soon as I left Innisfail, I went straight to Lakeland College and become a B-pressure welder by the age of 21. And then at the age of 26, we were going to have children and whatnot. So I got out of the welding because it was, Jesus, that was hard work. And got into oil operations. And then after about 6 years of that, we bought an apartment building, and we also opened up a gym that we built ourselves. And kids were born. We started up a play school in our town because we didn't have one there. Member of the fire and rescue for 15 years as well. So the experience I've got is phenomenal for this job that I have right now. I relate to all the people. These are my people. We all think the same.
Yeah.
We need change. I'm the guy to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because a lot of times the people that end up in politics are the people that have kind of always been in politics. And sometimes it's really refreshing to have somebody that has kind of been in the trenches, so to speak, and can really relate to the people that they're representing. So that's cool. So what got you into politics then, Mike? Because, you're just working the oil and gas, like all of a sudden here you are, representing the Yellowhead region.
This is actually kind of a fun story. So I'm a landlord now because of, I bought an apartment building, and hey, let's be honest, we voted poorly, and I was a contractor, and it was like, hey, I'll just do this. I can make a good living off of this. And so I kind of only work, 1 day a week, and this month it was a little more than that. But so I've got time for this kind of thing. But so every now and again, I should say every morning, my wife and I, we sit there and have coffee and we talk about certain things. But if I talk about politics at all, she's like, Michael, stop that, right? I don't want to hear about it. Unless you're going to do something about it, I don't want to even hear about it. Basically said, hold my beer. And so I signed up for this without her even knowing. And I didn't think it would even happen, honestly, right? But I really believed in something had to happen. And like everybody in Canada is saying, we need change. We're going the wrong direction. And anybody that's been here for 15 years in Canada knows how much better it was than what it is now. And the direction we're going is a scary one. So I'm just here to get us the freedom and prosperity back that we once enjoyed in Alberta. Like we had a really good run here, maybe too good of a run. We always knew that the highs are going to have lows, and that's normal in any industry. But it shouldn't be based on bad government. It shouldn't be our own people trying to drag us down. And so I've got to fix that. And I, because of my experience, I know how to fix that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Ottawa, and I've got this giant red button for all the liberal crap, and we're just going to hit.
Easy.
We're just going to hit the delete button to all their stupid policies that we're going to clean some shop.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those who are just listening and not watching, yeah, he has a big red button that said delete on it, and you push the button and it says that was easy. So that's kind of your goal to get the Liberals out. So what does the People's Party of Canada stand for? So, you said a lot of people agree with your platform. So tell us, what is the platform? What do you guys stand for?
Well, it's real simple, and here's the beauty of it. We only need a very small government to be able to accomplish our goals, because we support the oil and gas workers and the mining and forestry and all industries, right? But not corporate welfare. So we support the industries, and if they can thrive on their own, awesome, right? An all national pipeline. And pipelines are a big deal. There are 2,000 guys working in Edson right now. They're all trying to get on board to vote, and they're having a tough time doing that today. But all national pipeline, and I've got visions. Now, right now, the pipeline to go to the east is blocked by, they say, Quebec mayors. Maxime Bernier is from Quebec, and he can get it through. I believe in him to make that happen. He knows the people, and he knows the policies. Rather than getting the oil from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East and Venezuela and God knows where else we get it all from. Now, rather than doing that, we should be able to be self-sufficient. If we had a pipeline that ran to the east using our oil, even if we just set it at $40 a barrel all the way to the east, they would have cheap fuel, we'd have guaranteed steady work, and we'd be self-sufficient. And every Canadian would prosper. So I mean, this stuff isn't hard. It'd be just like a hedge fund for oil. Who wouldn't do that? When we built the when the oil sands were being built by Canadian Natural Resources multiple years ago, they spent $10 billion developing that project, and that created such a boom in Canada. And just think of this, $10 billion, and created a huge boom in Canada. We had people from all over Canada and the world coming to help build that thing. And then you see these deficits these governments are running, and they're spending, tens of billions of dollars, and shouldn't there be a boom somewhere? So clearly this is a huge waste, and that needs to be changed. But I guess we're going for what I support, as the party supports. Equalization. Now, this has been a hot topic. I think the number is close to $13-14 billion that Alberta puts into equalization, which is about the same amount that Quebec gets out of it. Talking to Maxime Bernier last week about that exact thing. He was in the meeting with Stephen Harper. He says the meeting lasted from 9 till 12, and they decided they needed to buy the votes in Quebec. So they took hydroelectricity out of the equation in Quebec. So it didn't show that they were earning profit off of that, and they have a lot of it. So that made Quebec look a little bit poorer and increased their share by about $4 billion. Now, if they were to do the same thing with us and just take oil out of the industry, we'd be getting $10-14 billion back our way if we played it fair. So either because Max was in on that meeting, he knows exactly how to fix it. He says we'll be done by noon, and so that's an easy fix, and that's just one of the things. So it's all unfair against the West, and let's see here, smaller government. I had heard at the Max rally a couple of guys talking that they'd hired a lot of the immigrants that Trudeau's brought in. He gave them, a lot of them, and not just them, but he hired 400,000 federal employees during his reign so far, and most of them average $130,000 a year income. We're not sure what those people are doing, but holy crap. I know one of the numbers I was looking at one time was just our tax division. Just to do our taxes in Ottawa requires the population of the city of Red Deer. I'm sure we can simplify that. And especially with algorithms and computers nowadays, I mean, fill out a form, push it in the thing, have it self-check, have a half a dozen people on the backside going, yep. The technology's there. I don't know why we're not. Anyway, smaller government, just get rid of the bureaucracy and the huge waste. These guys are tripping over themselves trying to figure out how they can create more rules and laws. And that's no good. And when they create more rules and laws, we've lost our freedom of expression. I think Bill C-10, I believe, we'll call it the Facebook bill, where we lost our freedoms there online. Bill C-16, freedom of expression, and M-103 was the religion one, but it only mentions Islam. So that's M-103 is kind of a Sharia law type of something that I think we don't need. We've got to separate government and religion, and so that our freedoms are gone, and that was a pretty big reason why I even got into this whole thing, because holy crap,
Well, I think it's interesting too, because a lot of these different bills, they just kind of get shoved in really quick. There's not votes. There's not really a lot of people talking about it. So a lot of people that I talk to and I mention these things, they're like, really? When did that happen? I'm like, well, we aren't aware of it because they probably never wanted us to be aware of it.
Well, that's exactly right. So what they do is they distract you with other issues like transgender or whatever, right? Like that, just stuff that tries to drive people's emotions, and people go that route instead of looking at the facts. And I know that for sure, because when I sit here and have coffee with my wife in the morning, she's on the emotional side of where most Canadians are, going, oh, well, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, hey, did you just miss Bill C-15? I've never heard of it, and then she'll pull it up and say, well, that's not. And I'm like, yeah, no, that bill, which they just pushed through, if let's say you want to develop build a manufacturing something or whatever, right? Drill an oil well. That bill states that using UN regulations, we now have to include the Indigenous on every development in Canada. And holy crap, that's going to be a bit of red tape to get anything done. And what does that mean, including them? Does it mean pay them, or and so it's kind of vague that way, but it's definitely a tool to shut down industry. And they just slipped that one through this year. Nobody's seen it coming. It's got to go too. Any free person prospers, and any time that a government interferes in prosperity, I mean, I just couldn't imagine why they would do that. Like that. Why would you sabotage your own country?
It's like shooting yourself in the foot.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Over and over and over again. And the ones that are feeling it the most are those of us out west. And how many logging or lumber companies got shut down because Justin Trudeau wasn't able to talked with Donald Trump at a grown-up level. And so he got railroaded. We shut down lumber mills. Lumber prices went through the roof. Well, that's great. Nice work, buddy. Price of oil is good. Can't get it to market. Why? And here's some fun. So we bought that pipeline, Trans Mountain, $5-6 billion without any notification to the rest of Canadians whatsoever. Just like, oh yeah, we're buying this pipeline that's already being constructed, because it was already getting constructed, he was able to buy it, and that was the only way he could shut it down. And now during an election, okay, well, let's quickly fire 2,000 people out there and see if we can get this thing built for some votes. 10 years later, well, not 10 years, I guess, 6 years later. But in the first 10 days of Trudeau's reign, he'd shut down five major pipelines in Canada. That's sabotage.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I actually had a gal on my podcast a few episodes back who talked about the oil industry. She's actually an environmental scientist, and she said she was going to go in and clean up all the dirty oil. And then when she actually got there, she realized the oil wasn't actually as dirty as she thought, that Alberta actually does an amazing job, and she didn't really have a lot of negative to say. And then she was wondering, why can't we get pipelines built, and why are we shipping oil from other countries who actually don't have good environmental practices? And so that was a really interesting interview. So yeah, I think it's a real frustration why the federal government is shutting down the pipelines that are actually going to benefit the country as a whole. Like, what is going on there? It makes you wonder. Yeah, there's a lot of questions there.
Well, the Trudeaus made their money off. They've got family invested into that New Brunswick refinery, and they're tied to the Saudis, and they get their oil from there. And good for them. They're getting rich. But then don't be in a leadership position, right? To squash the rest of Canada at your own greed. And that's awful. And I thought Canadians knew that kind of thing was going on, but that's apparently they didn't. So we got to get there's no point complaining about him too much, because everybody, you watch the news, and he's going downhill fast. So, so lucky for the People's Party of Canada for being here to be able to absorb the impact of his crash, and we're happy to pick up the pieces and fix the country and run with it.
So you're really about, the People's Party is really about freedom then. You want get the government out of there. So what else? Did you cover all the main points, or is there still a few other things that you wanted to cover?
Well, you know what, like when they asked me, I got an interview to even be able to run, right? And I wasn't the only one they picked, but they liked my answers the best. It was, I just simply said, freedom and prosperity, freedom and prosperity. Free people will prosper, just get rid of the red tape and let us roll. We have the cleanest oil and gas industry in the world. We don't vent natural gas anymore. It's all pipelined, sold back into the system. If we spill a cup of oil on the ground, be it hydraulic oil or engine oil or produced oil, it has to be cleaned up immediately. And there is absolutely, the environmental impact from the oil industry is always left better than it was found. If you take the Fort McMurray oil sands, back in the day when the oil would just run into the Athabasca River, and lightning would strike once in a while, and it would the river would light on fire. And so we're cleaning up God's oil spill, and that land is going to be returned more pristine than it ever was. They're going to build parks up there and whatnot. It's going to be beautiful. Mm. And maybe a variety of trees in certain areas, and it's going to be, the same as when they do open pit coal mining. Before they take the coal out, they survey the land, and they put it all back together exactly how it was, including the trees. They try to get the same rolling and whatnot. Mm. But in some places, if the land is a little bit crappy, they'll actually improve it, right? Mm-hmm. And so people say, well, yeah, but these things are creating pollution. You can fish there, swim there. It's camp there. It's beautiful, right? Right under the towers, basically. And the only thing that's coming out of there is CO2. And there's something that people kind of started believing the government that CO2 is a pollutant, but CO2 is actually plant food. So there's greenhouses that produce CO2 to have the vegetables grow faster.
Yeah, they say talk to your plants, right? So, yeah, there you go. Okay, so what do you stand against? Like, we talked about that a little bit. Obviously, one of the things you stand against is a lot of government intervention. You're saying kind of back off. Is there anything else that you would say the People's Party of Canada just really, they're not for?
Top the list, carbon tax. And, I was almost just going there, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Carbon tax. I mean, we're carbon-based creatures. That like taxing the air. I mean, they honest to God ran out of things to tax, so they found a way to tax the air, and which is just absolutely nuts. Did you know that we actually? And this is off the top of my head, but if we were to increase the CO2 level by 300 parts per million, we would increase our wheat production by 68.9%. And this is done by multiple studies, but I mean, like I say, they're producing CO2 in greenhouses every day so that this is every day they can prove that stuff, which is great. So if we're trying to feed 8 billion people, the more CO2 we produce, the more we can feed. You try to take the CO2 out of the equation and we're going to starve.
So it's just using it probably in a good way and making sure. I mean, if you're just producing a whole bunch of CO2 and you get rid of all the plants in the world, there's going to be a problem, right? But the plants are there to absorb that. They're there, and then that helps them. So I guess it's kind of like it's renewable. Actually, it sounds like it would be sustainable.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you would axe the carbon tax completely then?
Yeah. Well, because it's a phony baloney tax. I mean, if you wanted to do anything at all, you'd Texas is a good example. They don't have income tax down there. They only have a GST. I think it's 5%, and that covers all of their expenses for the state. And you go, holy crap! Then how come we've got all these taxes? Well, because of corporate welfare. Once every election cycle, it seems like GM goes under. Let them fail. If they're not able to keep themselves profitable, let them fail. Every company that can't get it together, that's on them. They need to hire better people. And if they can't get it done, they'll be bought out by somebody that can get it done. But that's not the government's job to interfere. The Paris Accord, here we are throwing a lot of good money into what? Like, what bin is that? Climate change. Okay, well, the climate's always been changing, but that wasn't necessarily done by man. I mean, you can pick either side on that, but I think if a person really wanted to do their part, buy a Prius. Do your part that way, but don't. So the Paris Accord would be a huge savings as well. Internet censorship, touched on that already. That like we all have the ability to just hit the off button on the internet. Sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will. Like, come on, right? We learned the stuff when we were 5. We can't just be giving in to every sad person that didn't grow up properly. It's just depressing. Mass immigration. So when Justin Trudeau allowed for mass immigration with absolutely no credentials whatsoever, brought in hundreds of thousands of people, rushed them to get their citizenship to buy votes, and that's almost criminal. His dad did the exact same thing too, so it's not like you can just look back in history and see how that turned out. But eventually the same thing happened to both Trudeaus. The rest of Canadians stood up and said, hey, this is wrong. The older Trudeau, at least, it was just the West that was throwing tomatoes and eggs at his train, but it's good to see them doing it in the East. It just shows that we're standing up as a group of Canadians. UN commitments. We need to be our own sovereign country and look after ourselves first. I'd say until we have let's take the Native Canadians, until they have the same quality of life as every other Canadian, we shouldn't be sending billions of dollars to foreign dictators. And we had, let's see here, the first year that Trudeau was in power, actually the first week, Stephen Harper had reported a $5 billion surplus, and Justin Trudeau turned it into $15 billion in the hole immediately by sending money overseas. Now, I would be looking into this and where that money went to, because you send $5 billion to Buddy over there in some weird country, and it doesn't go towards the people, and I just wonder how much of it comes back into somebody's fund. Anyway, that's something I'll be looking into. Yeah, so that's a large part of how it's going to work. Just smaller government, quit waste money, and give back to the Canadians, and if we can keep the money here, it's going to do a lot of good for all of us.
Yeah, what's your stance on COVID? Because everybody's talking about COVID now. Everybody has a different opinion. It's so divisive. So what is the People's Party of Canada? Do you guys have kind of a stance on COVID? I know a lot of this is, as far as restrictions, is dealt provincially, but what's your kind of take on it?
So, yeah, this is actually a really great question. This is actually half the reason that, this is half the reason why we're going to win the election. So I'll start with, my wife got vaccinated and I did not. So we have a lot of good conversations about freedom of choice. And she was working in the school system as a teacher's assistant, and she decided to back off this year because the restrictions are just, everybody's unhappy. And if you're unhappy going to work, then don't, right? Do something different instead. So, if everybody, so we need to give people the freedom of choice. This is a cold that doesn't even hurt children. They get the sniffles and carry on, right? So why are we making the children suffer? So we need to have freedom of choice, and and vaccine passports are the exact same thing. We need to abolish that. I mean, if somebody was to ask you to see your medical records, the answer is none of your business, right? And this is the same thing. So if you were to take, they say that 70% of Canadians are vaccinated. I think they're shooting a little bit high on there. I know in my riding, it's probably closer to 50%. So if 50% of the people are vaccinated, some of them not by choice, they needed it for their jobs, then, and we're the only ones against vaccine passports and give you the freedom to choose, that means we've got 50% of the vote just like that. And that was not the platform that we chose to run on. It just seems to be the one of the day, and all it is just freedom. And you should have the freedom whether you get this shot or not. And if I did get COVID, that should be my choice. And if it's a problem, though, that's my problem. That shouldn't be, I think we all understand what the risks are at this time, at point. I mean, don't we?
I think we all understand a lot about COVID, probably more than we ever want to. We're just, I don't know, everyone I talk to is just sick to death of hearing about it, and they just kind of want it to be over. I don't believe it ever will really be over potentially, but it would sure be nice if the media at least would just kind of back off for a bit and let us breathe a bit. Why should we vote for you, Mike? I want to wrap this up, but we understand kind of why we want to vote for your party. You guys represent freedom. You represent real autonomy, individual autonomy and business autonomy, get the government kind of get their fingers out of everything. But why you specifically, Mike? I mean, obviously you've been in the oil and gas industry for 25 years. You've lived in this province in Alberta. Why else?
Oh, there's lots of good reasons. Well, so my kids are growing up, they're out of the house, just the wife and I, and we basically took up golfing and said, we need more to do. And I've done lots of things in my life that to create challenge. This one here, I'm just driven to do it. I'm excited for it. It's I'm not even nervous a little bit to walk into that building in Ottawa and just straighten some stuff out, and just talk like a normal human being. None of this political jargon. You'll never hear that from me. It'll be black and white. Not everybody likes that, but I think that I'm a perfect voice for the people of the Yellowhead, because every single person I talk to thinks exactly like me. And well, okay, there was 3 people, but I mean, like when you're talking 90+% of the people are 100% support with the platform, and they seem to like the way that I bring the message across, and I can get the job done. And I think if we get this riding, I think it'll be a pretty quick solution to get the rest of Canada online. Because I'll be a strong voice.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. So where do we go to find out more, maybe about you or about the People's Party of Canada? Where's the best place? Is there a website or something?
Well, yeah, we've got all kinds of, I just got a website up, michaelmanchenppc.com. Facebook, we've got PPC Yellowhead. Or is it Yellowhead PPC? Yeah, you get the idea. I think we got a Twitter handle, PPC Yellowhead. Email me. That's you get a pretty direct response from that one at ppc.yellowhead@gmail.com. And you know what? I'm open to taking phone calls, and I apologize. I should have shut my ringer off, but I answer that thing regularly. It's I've got my phone number on everything. Call me 780-870-8856. We'll have a chat. Some people ask some pretty hard questions. Some of them are hard to answer, but what it comes right down to, I will never, ever, ever get in the way of Canadians' freedoms and prosperities, and you can pressure me on that. So, but feel free to get a hold of me. I had a guy call me from Ottawa or Ontario yesterday, and he's just like, "Yeah, I found your party platform. It's got your phone number on it. Is this for real?" Like, yeah, I made it all the way to Ontario. Right on. Good. Yeah. So
yeah.
So it's good stuff. No, call me.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because we had a really good talk too, Mike, you and I was asking you some questions, and we were kind of going, and I just appreciated that. Yeah, you were so accessible. You'd answer my questions. And so, yeah, I appreciate that. So, yeah, reach out to Mike if you guys have any questions, or check out the People's Party of Canada website. And yeah, thanks again so much, Mike, for being on here, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into the podcast today. I absolutely love that you joined us. I love being able to record these, and I love our guests. It's been so much fun. So thank you. Please like it, share it, comment, do all of the things that you feel like you want to do if you enjoyed this podcast. I really, really appreciate that. And this podcast has been brought to you by my company, Power Fitness Online. So everything that we do locally with our workouts, with our group nutrition coaching, and with all of the other fun events and stuff that we run, we put all of that online. So now you can access everything, even if you're not locally, don't live in our area. So my coaches and I and all my staff, the whole team, we are putting so much work into these workouts. We're filming 5 fresh workouts every single week so that you never have to do the same workout twice. We're also doing group nutrition and personal nutrition coaching so that you get exactly what you need. And you know what the best part is? It's the community. The absolute best part is just knowing that you have the support, that you have the encouragement, that you have everything you need to succeed. So go to powerfitnessonline.com.